Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Madness, madness, they call it madness. Madness, madness, they call it madness.
The point of leaving a no deal on the table is a internationally accepted negotiating tactic. Which
so what previous international negotiation would you point to as a precedent for this?
One doesn't spring to mind. I'm talking through.
But you said it was internationally recognised. I just want one example of where walking away from a negotiation involves walking to a completely new status quo as opposed to returning to the old one. Just one example, Johnny.
Hang on, you're misinterpreting what I'm trying to get across. The reason
it's
you're going to
possible,
leave
but
no
unlikely.
There,
I just want you to answer the question, because I like these phrases like internationally recognised, and you sort of glibly deliver it as if that somehow excludes you from having to explain what you mean. So if it's internationally recognised, there'll be loads of examples of negotiations where two parties engage in discussions, and if one of them elects to walk away from those discussions without having arrived at a deal, they don't go back to the status quo that they inhabited prior to the negotiations. They go back to a completely new and largely unknown status quo. So what's the example you've got of that?
Okay, great. New, unknown. Good.
So the example that you use to claim that it's internationally recognised, this tactic you describe, what examples can you offer us?
Let's move on from internationally recognised.
Well, only if you admit that it was a ludicrous phrase to use. No? Okay, here we go. So it's not internationally recognised.
Well, it's internationally
because no one has ever done it.
America and Australia.
Because no one has ever done it.
Look, I'm not a historian.
Well, then don't come on national radio and tell my listeners, who are intelligent and deserving of a lot more respect, stuff that you know to be untrue.
No, hang on. I was calling about your car analogy and going to a dealership and then leaving with a no deal or anything.
Yes.
That made absolutely no sense in what we're talking about in the bigger picture.
I'm not responsible for your intelligence.
Well, thank God for that. Next, the point of moving into an unknown is because when we made the decision, rightly or wrongly, to leave Europe, we wanted to leave the controls they have over us and also the other 60 nations or 40 nations or whatever who are not productive and basically rely on Germany,
40 nations in the European Union.
I can bring Google back up and work out the exact numbers.
You don't need Google. There's 28 currently, of which we're one. So there are 27 other nations. And let's pick up on that word you used, control. So what is it that we can't do at the moment that we'll be able to do when we don't have any trade agreements in place at all?
Set our own customs limits. Set our own customs tariffs. We
can't do that under World Trade Organization most favored nation status. As soon as we offer or impose one thing on one country, we have to impose it on every country in the WTO. You can find this on Google.
That's fine, but as a sole trader and a businessman, we will still end up being able to trade. Where we're forgetting is that
the question is, how will it be better?
Uncharted territory.
How will it be better than what we currently have?
The world can change.
So that the world can change?
So that generally we can move into a new phase of even greater global trade and move away from
by leaving the biggest single market on the planet, walking away from 81 established free trade agreements and countless other attendant arrangements and treaties, we'll be able to trade more than we currently do.
We will be able to trade more than we currently do.
Okay, Johnny. I think we use different Googles. I think we use different Googles. So tell me the thing that is going to be the fly in the ointment of your plan, the reson why this unicorn land won't happen. Is it because of EU intransigence or lefties?
The people who are negotiating on our behalf are politicians and civil servants and people who are not business savvy.
Yes.
Okay?
For example, people who know that there are 28 members in the European Union rather than people who think there are 40. We should have people who think there are 40 countries in the European Union doing the negotiations. Is that what you're telling us? Because that's what I've taken away from this conversation. You don't think they know what they're talking about, but you can't even count.
Morning, James.
Hello.
Always good to speak to a fellow Amphivaldian.
Carry on.
Basically, I wanted to kind of ask you a question, if I may.
It doesn't really work like
I wanted to ask... It's going to continue on to probably a little debate, so it's a good way of starting.
Well, I've been asking questions for an hour and 12 minutes.
All right, I'll let you ask me a question.
So you ring in and answer
myself
them.
a question in that case.
Go on then.
The question is there any benefit to Brexit at this stage? That would be my question. And my answer to that would be the benefit to Brexit is that we are now able to negotiate trade deals, or preliminary trade deals, let's call them, with countries we wouldn't have been able to touch if we were inside the EU's jurisdiction.
How many trade deals do you think we currently have?
Well, South Korea, Liam Fox signed a preliminary trade deal the other day, and we wouldn't have had access to South Korea.
We already do. They've rolled over the terms of the EU's deal with South Korea, Luke. It's literally a carbon copy of what had already been agreed between the European Union and South Korea.
But is that not a benefit to Brexit? Is that not a benefit? That shows that Brexit
you
can
have to listen to the
not...
words that I just said. You said countries we wouldn't be able to touch as European Union members. For example, South Korea. The deal that Liam Fox announced last week is a rolling over of the deal that the European Union has with South Korea.
Yeah, exactly. That's where you just said it. The European has to deal with South Korea, not Britain.
You said it's a country we wouldn't be able to touch. We've already got a trade agreement with them.
Not in. Well, look, we're a service industry.
Did you really go to Ampleforth?
Yes, I did.
I think your parents deserve a refund.